how I was a year ago,
Yeah.
I am not that same person. 1 year ago, I was doing everything on my own. Everything on my own.
When you start putting all of that on your one plate, you get overwhelmed and then you don't do anything.
And as far as like 1099 or anything, tax for dummies, it works. Fear is important. Failure is important as well.
Welcome to the Nurse Boss Shift. It's your girl, Dr. Kiana Jones, and today I am live in Fredericksburg, Virginia, where I'm interviewing Harveen Kaur. I am alone. Crystal is not here, you guys, but she is sending her prayers with me as I go to all of these locations. But what I want to share with you guys is today, this is a special interview because you guys, I'm coming here to talk about her experience and her journey as a nurse entrepreneur. Welcome, Harveen.
Thank you.
So first, before we dive into all the business side of it, I would love for you to share a little bit just about your journey. Like as a nurse, how did you start, even from nursing? What was your journey like? And then eventually we'll gradually get to the entrepreneur side.
I started as an LPN, and LPN in the military, U.S. Army. Did that while I was in the military. I got my BSN, and then I got out of the military. I did 6 years, and then I jumped into critical care. So I did ICU, I did trauma ICU, surgical, cardiovascular, and then I did 2 or 3 years of that. And then I jumped into travel nursing. I did that for like a year and a half, and then I was like, I'm done.
Was it during COVID?
It was during COVID. Well, it was actually a year after COVID.
Okay.
So I did miss out some of it.
Okay. Some of it, because that would be 2021.
2021, yes. 2021 I did. 2022 I was done with it. And then I opened my own business. So I've been a nurse for over a decade. Had lots of experience, so much fun, but it was time to do my own thing.
Okay, so when you decided to enter into entrepreneurship, or was this always something that you had in the back of your mind, even as a nurse, or was there something that kind of lit your fire for entrepreneurship to get you here?
I've always wanted to do my own thing, but what happened was I went for one of my own appointments at a med spa, and then I'm like, hey, if they can do it, I've been wanting to do it, why can't I? So I researched, and I just opened my own.
So you were in the military working as a nurse first, LVN first, and then you became an RN, and then at that point is when you decided to start your business, or in aesthetics, was it like more of a kind of, did you flirt with anything else besides aesthetics is what I'm leading to? Okay.
Me and my husband, we have multiple businesses. We do investment properties and stuff like that. We always wanted to do our own business. And then my husband opened his business a year before mine. So we were like, okay, now it's your turn, is what he had said. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And then I opened my own med aesthetics.
Okay, now, are there some skills, traits that you would say that are transferable from nursing that you use right now in your business?
Yes, actually, nursing is a lot of determination. You have to have faith. You have to have that grit that, oh, I'm going to do it. Nursing school nowadays, it's like a hassle to go through. So you already have those qualities by the time you're out of nursing school and have your degree. Just put all of that into your business and make sure you just keep going one day at a time, and it works out.
Would you say that, because this is, I just know what people are going to say in the background because I know my market, okay? I know those who are listening to y'all know I always come for y'all. So a lot of people will say, okay, yeah, well, she probably had support and she could do it, or she probably already knew that she was gonna do this. What about us? Like we don't have a lot of resources, or either they may say, I don't have any experience, I haven't been a critical care nurse, right? They'll try to find any reason. What will you say to those people?
Okay, let's start. My background. I had no experience. As far as support, the only support I have is my husband, and even him, when he started his business, we had no support. So we literally started with nothing at all. slowly and surely we saved, one thing at a time. As you open your business, you realize it's harder to work for somebody else. It's easier to work hard on your own business. If we were putting all of that effort into making someone else's business, why not? Why not we do that same thing for our own? Yes. And it hurts less because everything's coming to you and you're still putting all that effort. As far as qualities or I didn't have that support, I always say that's just excuses. Yes. Because if you want something really bad in your life, you go for it. So that's basically what I did. I knew I wanted to do it. Biggest thing is just making sure you have all the research. And I'm talking about research in like Google.
Yes.
Google. Yes. See what you need to do to open a business. And that's basically what I did. Like Googled, made a list of everything, and I knew that's what I wanted, and that's where you came in.
I think that's really powerful because there's a couple things, and we kind of talked about this off camera, full disclosure, you guys, about just marriage and entrepreneurship. Yes. And I was telling you how it's good that you and your husband are entrepreneurial minded. Usually, two people who are married are typically opposite when it comes to certain things, right? So you'll have, like, for example, me and my husband, like, he's definitely more frugal than I am. I'm like, spend it all, yes, yes. And he's like, whoa, slow down. Like, we got to make sure, so he keeps me balanced. But I think that a lot of people are seeking, especially women, we want the buy-in of our partner. And sometimes that's a challenge for us. So I think I was telling you that, like, I think that's great that, at least you and your husband are going through it, because at the foundational level, being an entrepreneur, you still have to develop these certain qualities. And it really doesn't matter if it's a med spa, if it's a car dealership, if it's investments, if it's whatever, you have to be willing to take risks and be willing to step out there. Yes. So I want to ask you about that. Like, what fears did you have and how, if ever, did you overcome them as an entrepreneur, especially as a nurse?
Everything in life is risk. It truly is. You either go for it or you don't go for it. That person where if I don't do it, I don't want to look back and be like, what if? Yeah. What if? So as far as be it rental properties, be it car dealership, be it a med spa or whatever there is, if I want something in life, I go for it. My husband's the opposite, actually. Okay. So when you were talking about how your husband's frugal, mine's a spender. So he's one of those who's like, spend it all. So even for properties, let's say we looked at a house and we're like, oh, that'd be a great rental income. And I'm that one person where I'm like, did you research it? Did you see it? Did you talk to that person? No, he's one of those where get it now, market's hot, let's do it. We do balance each other out as far as how you overcome that. If you don't take risk or if you don't ask for it, the answer is always no. I'd rather do it and we'll figure it out.
Okay, then that takes me to the next question. Did you have it all figured out when you started?
Oh no. Oh no. Even now, like my own business, it's almost 2 years. I don't have it figured out. Yeah. If I figure something out, there's another problem. So you're trying to figure the next hurdle, that's coming your way. So it's always a stepping stone or a stepping game, like you're just going one step forward.
And I find that people, and it's funny, I was talking about this on the other podcast with Alex, I find that people want to have the whole plan, like A to Z, before they say they want that before they take the step. And I'm like, that it's an excuse, but also you will never have A to Z already figured out. No. So essentially by default, you're saying you're never going to start.
Yeah, no, I still remember when I started this business, my first hurdle, like in my head, I'm like, I'm never going to find a medical director. It's just not going to happen. I just cannot open it. But once we started the process, I found a medical director. It's like, that's not the problem that I had in mind. The other one was, I'm never going to get a license in this place. It looks like this.
By the way, you guys, we are in like a nice shopping center. Like your place is so nice. So imagine like that. I can't even think that you thought you couldn't get it. Oh
yeah, it was so bad. Like it's just one problem at a time. So you fix one issue and then the next is, I'm not going to get the license here. It took us 4 months to get the license. That's where I got my LLC in May, and I opened in October. The only issue was the license at that point. Mm-hmm. It took us 4 months to get it.
And that's pretty long, because now let me say this, I had my first location, it took about 4 months. My second location, it took 30 minutes. Like literally I went in, paid for the license, and they were like, boop.
No, it was some issues with the property or whatever, but took us that time. Once that was done, I'm like, oh, I'm never gonna get the clients. I opened this. So it's like another, you know. So once you start getting that, and they're like, oh, I'm never gonna do this. I'm never gonna be able to pay my bills. It just opens up doors. You just have to believe that it will work out.
What was your biggest fear?
I mean, to this day, I always say, I'm not gonna have clients. How am I gonna pay my bills?
Even though you have clients, even though every single, let me just say this, and this is a full transparency moment for me too, you guys, because no lie, every month when I pay my lease and when I pay all the bills, I'm like, thank you God, I made it. Every single month. I've been in this business for 7 years and I still, and I don't know if that's kind of rooted in the imposter syndrome that I feel everyone has a bit of it and to a different degree, but I still thank God. It's also thanking him in gratitude, but it's also like, whew, I guess I know something.
Yeah, it's working out. Like the way I look at it, I have a minimum that I have to meet every month. So once I've hit my minimum, then I breathe and I'm like, oh, it's fine. We're good for this month. So it just...
Yeah. And you're 2 years in now.
I know.
Do you have, or have you started to develop a level of confidence after, I mean, you said 2 years in October, I think.
Yes.
So that's right around the corner. So has that grown for you, or have you developed? I always say I have a toolkit is what I tell people. And I'm like, and my toolkit is, if I feel this fear, or let's say I'm about to go into this new venture that I know I'm not familiar with or comfortable with, I acknowledge the fear, but I still keep going. Because one thing I've learned about me is that when I do that, I always win. And I don't mean win as in I don't take a L, because I could.
Oh yeah.
But I've won either as I've developed and grown, or I've won as in that thing that I was trying to achieve did actually happen. But there's always some type of win. So what is your, like, have you become better at it? Like, or do you feel like, no, I still
have that fear every time, but how I was a year ago, I am not that same person. I have definitely grown, and it shows too, just personally. For me, I don't have that gut wrenching, that, oh my God, like this. Still have that, some days are harder than the others, but definitely not that same person from last year. Grown, and I feel like when you own your business and when people depend on you, you go harder. So I don't have an excuse, because this is the only thing that I'm really, really good at, I feel like, and you know, I'm just gonna keep going and get better.
So you just said that you are not the same person you were when you started. What does that look like? What would you say are some characteristics or some things about you that maybe people have noticed since you've been doing it? Maybe your husband? Or...
Oh yeah, I wasn't confident. Anytime I would even do a treatment on a patient, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm looking at my phone. Are they gonna text me, say they hate it? Is it something that they didn't like? So all of those play into it. As far as like, mostly it's like, I am an overthinker. So to me, I'm type A as well. Everything has to be a certain way. If it's not, it bothers me personally. Now I have learned to, or trying to learn, to let go of things. There are certain things that are in my control that I can do. The rest I have to let go. 1 year ago, I was doing everything on my own. Everything on my own.
Right, not relinquishing control. You were, right, okay.
So like I couldn't let go, because what if someone does it this way and it's wrong? Something happens. Now the things that I'm not so great at, I have my team members that I have that are doing way better than I was doing it. So, you know, then you're like, oh, makes sense.
I love that. And one of my mentors actually told me, because girl, I was trying to do, and I tell this on this podcast too, like I was trying to do Canva. You could literally see my Canva work from the experts, right, that I've now brought on my team, just because it's not my thing, but yet I think I can do it better than everyone else. So I had to gradually as well learn to like really let people be in their gift so that I could be in my gift. And that is going to create a better result for my business if I just step out in the areas that I'm not strong in. So I think a lot of people too, when they are considering starting their business, they are thinking about doing they're trying to do everything. And if you think about it, all the things that it takes to run a brick and mortar virtual business, whatever type of business, there is a lot of moving parts. And when you start putting all of that on your one plate, you get overwhelmed and then you don't do anything.
I mean, in the beginning, I'll say that when you're tight financially, when you're scared, oh, if I hire somebody, you have to pay them and all that kind of stuff. So it's very financially, you're strict with yourself. So you have to do certain things on your own. But once you kind of hit that little mark, again, I always say mark because I do have maximum, minimum. I'm like one of those people who have you have to reach that goal. Once you've reached that goal, get somebody.
Okay, so another thing is, I really truly believe in freelance work, right? That helped me. So when I give the example of Canva, I would go on and pay somebody $25 to do me a graphic because I'm trying to do it and it'd take me 5 hours and it'd be trash because I don't know, I'm not a designer, right? Versus going to Fiverr or going on Upwork. So I'm with you, yes, you know, hiring somebody, but I think people really don't realize there's so much freelance work out here that we are missing out. There's a whole market. And so if you have a brick and mortar like you, and there's a TaskRabbit, right? Where you can just, let's say, help you unpack your boxes and just
I did that.
You use TaskRabbit.
Yeah,
Okay,
I did that
so
for all the cabinets here.
Exactly.
So it took them 2 hours and they put all the cabinets together and I didn't have to worry about it. So we use that.
Yeah.
As far as even employees, when I say you hire somebody, I'm not talking about W-2 contractors. So you could do 1099 and get them started, a couple of hours a week or something, hey, can you make calls to my leads?
Exactly.
That's 4 hours, right? So something like that in the beginning. I hate answering phone calls. Again, like a personal thing, so you find someone who's really good at it. Okay. They'll do that, so that way it takes it off of my plate and then I'm not anxious the whole day thinking, oh my God, I have to make the calls to those leads. That just little help.
Okay, so let me ask you this. How did you learn about all of this? You went from, you were a nurse, where did you get all of this? How did you, because it took me a while. I'm sure some people who are listening right now are either looking at us on YouTube, they've never heard of Fiverr, they've never heard of TaskRabbit, they've never heard of Upwork. I was in circles and I'm like, oh, wait, what's that? Writing it down. How did you?
Attention aspiring entrepreneurs in the healthcare industry. Have you ever dreamt of starting your own successful IV hydration business? Well, your dream is about to become a reality. Imagine a business where you can make a difference in people's lives while building a thriving venture. We're excited to invite you to a free webinar that will unlock the secrets to launching a successful IV hydration business. Join us for an exclusive event where industry experts will share invaluable insight on the essential steps to launch your IV hydration business, building a six-figure business from scratch, navigating the challenges in the healthcare entrepreneurship journey. But that's not all. Attendees of the webinar will get a sneak peek into our comprehensive IV Hydration On Demand course. Discover how this course has empowered others just like you to turn their passion into profit. Picture this: lifetime access to in-depth video trainings, business strategies, SOPs, and exclusive bonuses that can catapult your success.
Register now for our free webinar at https://apply.trueusavvy. That's truusavvy.com/training. Don't miss this opportunity to kickstart your journey to a rewarding and lucrative IV hydration business.
Google.
Yeah, Google.
Literally, Google. Or YouTube. Yeah. I remember even when I was starting the business, I will go on YouTube for people who have opened their own med spa, and I will listen to everything that they have to do. Obviously, no one gives you, do this. It doesn't work that way. But you have your pen and paper and write down something from one video, other from the other one. Yes. So slowly you make a plan of, I need this first or I need that first. When I say it was months and months of researching that went into it, that's how I did it. And as far as 1099 or anything, tax for dummies, it works.
Tax for dummies. And see, that's the thing. I think people will always, well, not always, but a lot of people who are really scared, they don't want to talk about that. They'll just talk about how hard it is, or I don't know what that means when they say research. It's in this day and age, now when you started, there was not even AI. So you really don't have an excuse at this point.
And when I started, nobody would talk about how they'll gatekeep you. So they will not talk about how we did it. So I did my research and then I attended your class. So it was easier to kind of go through the steps that I already had written down, because I think I did the master class with you. So I had my stuff written down. The other page, I had written down everything that you were saying, that, hey, you need this, you need that, you need that. So now once I'm done with the class, I compared what I was missing. So I went through that, and
that is the thing. Like, if you want something, to me, this is the big takeaway, guys, message. If you want something, you have to be willing to do the work.
Yes.
And I really do feel like, honestly, Harveen, that a lot of people want it handed to you. And the truth is, if it was handed to you right now in your lap, you would not know what to do with it if you didn't do the groundwork.
that is so true. That is so true.
They say, oh, okay, we'll get you 50 clients. It's like, but would you know what to do? You have the infrastructure to support it. And if you don't at least have high level and idea, you are setting yourself up and your business up for failure. And I think people don't realize that hard work that you said, like going on YouTube, like consuming, because I consume so much information, and this is over years. So then it starts getting compounded, right? So now Harveen has her amazing practice here, but nobody sees all the roots, the planting that you did before this harvest came. And I would love for you to just speak about those moments, and I'm sure you've had them, where you were like, what am I doing? Or where you wanted to give up, and how did you muster up the courage to still keep going? Or what was that process like for you?
I think our first big one was the medical director, where I couldn't find one. I went back to all the providers that I've worked with. I started emailing them. I started calling and be like, hey, would you, found one. And then was good for a couple of months. And then next thing you know, a hospital that's very next to me found out that that provider was my medical director, and they have their own dermatology clinic. They did not like that at all. So now I don't have a medical provider, but I have that less than 15-day window to find another medical provider, because you cannot run your own practice as an RN without a medical director in the state of Virginia. So I have 15 days. Oh, I broke down. I was like, oh, it's not happening to me again. We can't do this. But then I was like, why not? So I called my medical director again. I was like, do you know anybody? Do you know anybody that would? And my sister's a doctor now, so I can use her in case of emergency. She is not my medical director yet. Found another one that he said he recommends, and I interviewed 3 people, and I found the one that worked well with my vision, and it all worked out. But that was I had
rethought your whole life. What am I doing?
What am I doing? Because I can't run this practice without a medical director. Right. So that was one. And the second one is always when you're in any kind of clinic environment, something goes wrong with your patient or your client. You sit down, and if you don't have that support system, it was very harsh, very hard on me to this day, so you just focus your gear towards learning after. So that was another one. But you keep going.
You keep going. And the thing about it is, there is, we were just talking about this off camera too, there's 2 sides to a coin. And so even though it happened the way it happened with your so much learning happened in that process. First of all, you mustered up the courage to call back and say, hey, do you know anybody? You start to realize your inner strength in the most vulnerable moments. And a lot of people are trying to avoid being vulnerable or avoid hardships, but the truth of the matter is that's where the learning happens. That's where you grow and develop. I look at my life even, and I get super emotional, because I can't believe I am doing this. My business paying for me to travel and go see all of these clinics. It's only 3, but if all of these clinics where I had some part in it. And it's if I had have let the doubts of others, if I had let, the fears of others influence me, or even my own fears influence me, I wouldn't have been able to have a part, as small as it may have been, to help other people. Like, imagine if I allowed all of that to stop me. And so for those people who are listening, this is why Crystal and I created the podcast. It's to humanize the nurse entrepreneur. Like, no, we are not like with capes on and like have some kind of magical power.
It doesn't work like that. I always say fear is important. Failure is important as well. So if you don't have the fear, or if you haven't experienced failure, you will never know the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. So you have to be in your low point to actually enjoy the high moments in your life.
Yes.
And I've had it all.
Yeah. Imagine if all you experienced was high, you won't appreciate that. You know, and that's exactly the message that I'm trying to get to deliver to everyone who is watching this podcast. And you have definitely done that. So let me just ask you, what would be, if there's someone who is listening today who maybe they identify with you, like military, that's huge, right? Working in critical care, or just working and being a nurse and now having a full brick and mortar storefront practice. What would you say that if you could talk back to Harveen from 2 years ago, even 3 years ago, because you were researching for a good year and some change. So what would you tell her that could help expedite this process or even make it a little better for her during this journey? What would you say?
Have faith.
And what does faith look like tangibly?
I remember I said I'm like an overthinker. Any step that you do, like I said, fear is important, but don't let it overpower you or overshadow you. So again, there's some days where you look back. If I could tell myself, I would say it's worth it. It all works out. So, just keep going. And that's how I live my life too. So if it's one step back, there will be two forward. You just have to wait for it. And it's sweeter when you have to wait for it.
And I think that's the hard part for people. Their steps back is what get them, right? Because when you've planted a seed and the roots are growing, the roots grow down.
Yes.
So you literally do not see any harvest for a long time, but you are planting. And for you, an example of that would be you invested in the masterclass, but you also continue to invest. You're still investing in yourself. You have to. Like, I don't see me ever being in a position where I'm without a coach, where I'm not attending some type of conference, some type of event. I'm always investing in myself. But the level of growth that I have had over these years as a result, good or bad, like I may have invested in the program and I was like, this was trash, but I learned now what questions to ask for the next one so I won't pay for trash, right? So there's always something. And what would you say to them about the investment part of it? Like, how could they or should they be more responsible with their investment? But I know you believe investments.
Yeah, oh yeah. Like, investment in yourself is equal to growth. As far as like med spa business, I attend like trainings, classes. I'm one of those weirdos that does it every 2 months. Be it private trainings, be it conferences, virtual, whatever there is, you need to invest and keep growing, especially in this industry. Whatever I learned a year ago or 2 years ago is not the same.
It is not.
Your injection techniques or whatever you're doing, it's totally different when you started. You have to be in the midst of it, all of it. We have online classes that we take for our team members. So it's like a whole thing. Everyone is able to watch them at any point. As far as investment in your personal life, again, if you invest in yourself, in your growth, that reflects in your personal life as well.
And so where do you see, so we're at Revive Metaesthetics, where do you see this in 5 years?
I probably have 2 more, but as far as I want to step out a little bit so that my amazing team members can take care of my business so I can focus on myself and my family.
And your family, because you're a mom, right? Two. Yeah. So for those who say, but she probably don't have kids, she does.
Yeah.
Okay.
A 12-year-old and an 8-year-old.
And 2 girls at that.
Yes, it's crazy. But yes, I did all of that. I went to BSN school while I was pregnant. Finished in a year, actually, from LPN to BSN. It was a 2-year program. I went crazy and I wanted to finish it before I got out of the military.
Yes.
So yeah.
Wow. So we got 2 more Revive Med Spa aesthetics. You want to step back a little bit from the business. Out of all the hardship and everything that you've been through, if you could do this again, would you do it again?
Honestly, if you asked me this in the month of May when my laser machine broke down, I would have said no. It depends day to day.
Yes.
But is it worth it? Yes.
Yes.
It's definitely worth it.
yeah.
But I didn't know what I know now.
Yes.
When I opened my business, how don't take, I mean, it's good. You want to like grow and do all of these things, but you want to be well informed of what you're getting yourself into.
Yes.
Even with all of the research that I did, there were a few things that I was not informed or like had no idea. That's where, you know, you're like, oh my God, I wish I did, you know.
Yes.
But then there's a day when everything just works out perfectly.
It does. It just comes together. I remember I've had several times where I'm looking at, you know, people I've went to school with and they're getting their paycheck. I mean, they're living, they're on vacation. I'm sitting there like at the computer calculating on my Excel spreadsheet, like, how am I going to pay? And like, it's funny because I look at those moments and I'm still like, I would still do it in the scheme. Like if you asked me, like you said, on that day, I would probably be like, don't do it, right?
Don't do it, don't this,
But
don't
in the
that.
scheme
But
of things,
yeah,
I would
like
do
today,
it 1,000
of course.
times over.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's worth it. It really
is so worth it.
What would you say, this is my last question, because we only got 30 minutes, y'all. We holding up her whole practice. Okay, what would you say are the biggest like positives about being an entrepreneur that you're like, oh my, that you maybe didn't even expect that you were gonna achieve or didn't even think about on your radar?
Like this whole practice, I didn't think I was going to achieve. I have it. Every single minute, second that I pour into it, it's mine. It's not for anybody else. I'm not doing it for someone else. It's literally for me. That makes it all worth it. Because if it was, like you said, paycheck, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get this regardless of if I put in the work or not.
Exactly.
With this, you have to put in the work. I don't sleep at 8 p.m. or 9, make it 2 a.m.,
Yes.
you know, but it's going towards me. It's going towards my future. So that's just the way I look at it. You're investing in yourself.
Yeah. And it's totally different. Yeah. Love that. Okay, so you guys, we are going to conclude right here, but I do want everyone to know how can they, let me just give a little pre-clue. Do not contact Harveen. She's not coaching. Don't call her. Don't ask her any questions unless you want service. All right? Because people will do it. Share with them how they can follow your journey, or if they're in the area and they need treatment, how can they reach you?
We're located in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And as far as reaching us, you can email us, or you could even reach us on Instagram at Revive Med Aesthetics. And for our Facebook, it's Revive Med VA. And if you need to email, it's bookings@revivemedva.com. All our prices, all our services, everything's listed on our website at www.revivemedva.com.
Awesome. All right, you guys, this has been another amazing episode. As I always say, do not gatekeep. If you have fellow nurses who may be interested in entrepreneurship, or even people who are not nurses, you guys make sure you share this podcast. I am literally on planes right now and I'm old, okay? It's taking a lot out of me, but I do this for you guys because I really want you to see what's possible if this is something that you want to do, guys. So again, we are on YouTube. You guys, we are at Nurse Boss Shift if you want to see our beautiful faces and see this amazing space where we are recording. And then as always, you guys, leave comments in the show notes, in the show notes letting us know what else you want from us, what you want to see, what you want to hear, and we will gladly oblige. Until next time, you guys, take care. Bye.